Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to have you with us. We've opened the doors, so we're going to give folks a few minutes here to get logged in, and we'll begin shortly. Again, good afternoon, everybody. We are letting everybody get logged in here, and we will begin the webinar shortly. Glad to have you with us this afternoon. And I see people are still logging into the webinar. And as I said, we're giving folks just a minute here to get logged in. Glad to have you with us, and we'll begin shortly. And if you're just joining us, again, we're letting folks get logged in, and we're glad to have you with us. We're going to begin here in just a couple of seconds. A reminder that attendees are muted today. We've got potentially about 150 people joining us today. So I'm going to encourage you to open your Q&A box and put your questions in there as we go along today. And we'll use that as logging questions. So yes, everybody is muted today. So please open your Q&A box and put your questions in there today. Beautiful, beautiful December day in Austin. I hope it is over in the Houston area and up in the Dallas area as well. So. Awesome, Charmaine, good. Okay, I do still see a few folks trickling in, but let's go ahead and get started. We're at 2:03. So I just wanted to turn my video on at the beginning here. I'm going to shut it off shortly and just say welcome to everybody. And we are so glad that you could join us today for this DIR training session. Now, some of you may have seen this presentation before that DIR does from time to time, but we just like to do these as an outreach courtesy to you, our customers who utilize our agency, because we know that things change over periods. You know, new folks come on staff, people retire, people change jobs. So we always kind of like to just reach out to our customer community and just, you know, do a review of DIR and how we can be a resource to you, our customers, as information technology needs arise at your entities. So that was the reason, part of the reason why we are doing this training today. The other reason is that for the last 8 months or so, DIR has been participating in what is called the Governor's Small Business Summits. They have done small business summits all over the state of Texas this year, and DIR goes and participates in those from the vendor side of things in the morning. So we will go do that summit in the morning, and we talk to vendors about how to do business with the state of Texas or how to become a DIR vendor, things like that. And then in the afternoons of those summits, that's when we like to reach out to our customer communities in those geographical areas and just provide some training on how DIR can be a resource to you and your entity. So again, glad to have you with us this afternoon. And why don't we go ahead then and get started. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video. Okay, so DIR as an agency is responsible for many different things when it comes to information technology. I guess one other thing I would like to do is if you would raise your hand and let me know that you can hear me pretty clearly today, because just want to make sure that we do have a good solid connection. You never know when things can kind of break down. So excellent. See lots of hands going up, so you can put your hands back down. And I appreciate that. Again, we do have everybody muted today, but feel free to open that Q&A box and put your questions in there. So DIR is responsible for many things when it comes to information technology. We have our IT procurement and contracting division. That's where we negotiate contracts with vendors that allow you, our customers, to go buy those information technology products that you might need for your entities. We have our shared technology services, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in detail here in just a little while on how your entity can utilize those. We're also responsible for a lot of data management, and part of that is utilizing the open data portal, which allows you, our customers, to post electronic data out on that open data portal. Again, I'll talk about that in just a little while. We're also responsible for the texas.gov portal. So if you've ever been online to, say, renew your auto registration or buy a hunting or fishing license, you've done business with the state of Texas through that portal. That portal allows all of us as constituents to do business with the state of Texas. We also provide technology leadership. We are the Chief Information Office for the state of Texas. So we set IT standards for the state of Texas, as well as be a resource to you, our customers, in helping you set IT standards for your entities. We also offer telecommunications products and services, and I'm going to cover some of those today on how your entities can take advantage of those through DIR. And we also offer cybersecurity, keeping the state safe. Cybersecurity makes up a large responsibility of DIR as an agency and being a resource to you folks in helping keep your entity safe as well. Would just like to add before we go further that we do have about 150 folks on with us today. And we've got a wide variety of local governments, city and county governments, a lot of school districts on with us today, some higher ed and other eligible assistance organizations who are also able to procure through DIR for information technology. And we've got a lot of purchasers, a lot of contracts folks, a lot of information technology staff. So you folks are the ones who typically do business with DIR on one level or another. So we've got folks in and around Houston. We've got a couple of entities from North Texas on with us today. So again, glad to have you with us. This is just a little bit about my background. I've been with the state for 14 years now. I've been with DIR for the last 12 years, and I was with the teacher retirement system. There's an entity that several of you are familiar with. I was with them for a couple of years. And I've had a great career path at DIR. I've worked in vendor management. I've managed cooperative contracts for the agency. I've also managed shared technology services contracts for the agency as well. I want to take a moment to introduce also Teresa Williamson, who is our hub director from DIR. She is on with us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Tom.
You bet, Teresa. Glad you're here with us. And also Andy Silva is on with us today as well. Andy runs our Chief Experience Office here at DIR. So we're always busy, making sure that our customers' needs are met. So let us know how we can be a resource to you as well. So here's our agenda today. We're going to talk about some statutes for procurement methods and how those apply to IT. I'm going to give you some background on DIR and a little bit on our history. We'll talk about our shared technology services and how your entities can utilize those through DIR. We'll talk about our cooperative contracts program. That's where you can go buy directly through our contracted vendors. I'm going to give you a demo and give you some tips on searching the DIR website. We're also going to talk about tips on writing a statement of work if you might be involved in that process. Give you some tips on managing IT contracts with our vendors. We'll talk about hub opportunities and how those are available through our contracts. We'll briefly cover cybersecurity training requirements as well as the TexRamp requirements for higher ed. And then we'll talk about some resources. I'll leave you with those. And again, if you do have questions, please put those in the Q&A box and we will do our best to get those answered for you today. And I do see a question about the course counting towards recertification, and no, this course is not eligible for any type of recertification. However, there are videos available through the comptroller's office that do count toward your certification, and there are a couple of DIR videos out there that you can watch and get recertification credits for CTCM or CTCD certifications. Okay, let's talk about a couple of statutes for procurement methods. A couple of things to know about DIR is that we use the request for offer method, or the RFO method, to procure AIS, or Automated Information System, and information technology services. Very similar to an RFP, but the RFO is typically used for more larger, complex type procurements, of which IT is a part of that. So we use the RFO method when we are advertising for vendor responses. All of our DIR contracts are competitively bid. We follow the state procurement rules, and they are awarded in accordance with statute as set forth by the legislature. Our cooperative contracts program then allows you to go directly to that DIR vendor by issuing your PO directly to that vendor, referencing that vendor's contract number on your PO. So our program is that you don't issue the PO to DIR, you issue the PO directly to that DIR vendor, and then it's the vendor's responsibility to turn around and report to DIR what they are selling on their DIR contracts. And our agency does follow Texas government codes for procurement, and those codes are 2157.068 for commodities and services, and 2170 for telecommunications services. You can also reference the Texas Procurement and Contract Management Guide, and that provides additional information on procurement methods and how those methods might apply. So if you could take DIR and split it into kind of 4 basic categories, this is what the pie chart would look like. First of all, we are a state agency. So we're like DPS and TxDOT and Health and Human Services. We are a state agency. And we're relatively young yet. We were created in '89, and our main purpose is to serve as the Chief Information Office for the state of Texas. You might remember back in the late 90s or late 80s, early 90s, that's really when information technology started taking off and started really affecting all of our lives on one level or another. So that was the reason DIR came into being. Our cooperative contracts program, this might be where most of you might be familiar with DIR. This is the do-it-yourself or the self-service model of IT procurements, where you, our customers, can go directly to our cooperative contract vendors and buy things like hardware items, different brands of software. This program also includes our deliverables-based IT services, or our DBITS contracts. We have staffing services, IT staffing services contracts, where you can bring contractors in to do IT-related work for you. And then that also gives us the opportunity from time to time to initiate what we call bulk purchasing opportunities under this program. And what that means is when we know that certain IT products or services are in very high demand from our DIR customers, we're going to attempt to negotiate short-term bulk purchasing opportunities that offer yet deeper discounts as compared to the regular contracted discount. They're kind of what we call our Kmart Blue Light specials because they're only for a short amount of time. I knew several of you would get that reference. So, so for example, let's say that we know that Health and Human Services needs to order 3,000 new computers. And we also know that Harris County needs to order 3,000 new computers. we've identified a potential bulk purchasing opportunity. So we're going to take that information back to our computer contract holders and attempt to negotiate a short-term bulk purchasing opportunity where those items will be offered at deeper discounts. So for example, if a Dell laptop is currently 25% off of MSRP on the Dell contract, if it's on a bulk purchasing opportunity, that Dell laptop might be offered at 40% off of MSRP. But again, it's only going to be for a short amount of time. So I've got a slide a little bit later on that shows you what we've currently got available on bulk purchasing opportunities. So I'll give you the bookmark to that DIR page on the DIR website as well. So it's good to bookmark that and just check it from time to time to see what we have available. Penny asks, on the DIY hardware contract, are there minimum order quantity for the discounts? So under a bulk purchasing opportunity, there is no minimum. You can buy one item or you can buy 1,000 items if it's on bulk purchase. On the regular contracted discount, we negotiate at a discount percent off of MSRP based on a quantity of one. So there really isn't like a minimum order quantity for ordering through a DIR contract or through a bulk purchasing opportunity, Penny. So I hope that answered your question. Okay, communications is another big area for DIR, and we kind of do that in three ways. We manage the Capitol Complex telephone system for agencies in and around the Capitol building here in Austin, as well as the Capitol building itself. We're also providing internet and network operation services to Texas, as well as making those services available to you, our customers, that you can procure for your entities. And then, of course, like I said, security operations makes up a huge part of DIR. We just need to keep those bad actors out of the state. So security operations is a large responsibility for us. And then our shared technology services on the opposite side of co-op, where you go do it yourself with our vendors, under shared technology services, this is where we do it for you. So it's as easy, we've negotiated contracts with vendors and put in place for things like data center services. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in just a little bit. This program does also include the texas.gov portal, where we can all do business with the state when our customers put services available through that portal. It does also include the use of the open data portal, where you, our customers, can post electronic data out to the general public. And then we also offer managed security services through this program as well. So our shared technology services, you do need to have an agreement on file with DIR to use those programs through our agency. Whereas under co-op, if you're an eligible customer, you don't need to have an agreement on file with DIR. And then policy and planning also makes up a big responsibility for DIR. We do that IT strategic plan for the state of Texas. What is that for the next year? What about 3 years, 5 years down the road? Doing that more longer term strategic IT plan. We also provide IT standards for the state of Texas. And like I had mentioned, we're a resource to you, our customers, and helping you set IT standards for your entities as well. And then, of course, reporting on the state of technology. We're always busy keeping the higher ups in state government notified of what's going on with technology with the state of Texas and with you, our customers. So who can buy through DIR? Well, this slide here kind of shows you the list of our eligible customers. So Texas state agencies and institutions of higher ed, there's about 183 eligible entities who can buy through DIR's contracts. Local governments, there's over 6,200 plus eligible entities. That includes city and county governments, school districts, municipalities, junior colleges, and all special purpose districts. And then there are other organizations who are also eligible to procure through DIR's contract offerings. That includes assistance organizations as they are defined by the Comptroller's Office. Also ERCOT, LCRA, private schools, private and independent institutions of higher ed, volunteer fire departments are eligible, public safety entities like emergency services districts, 911 centers, Hospitals, we all know that the medical profession carries a high degree of IT about it anymore. And then we also, through the use of an interstate cooperation contract, we have a large number of public entities located outside of Texas who are also eligible to procure through DIR's cooperative contracts once they have that agreement in place with us. So that includes out-of-state state agencies, out-of-state local governments, out-of-state school districts, and out-of-state public institutions of higher ed. So a lot of out-of-state entities really like how we do things here. So they do have that agreement and then buy frequently through DIR's contracts. So let's talk a little bit in depth about our shared technology services offerings. And again, these are services that we have negotiated contracts with vendors for a wide variety of different services that you, our customers, can utilize for your entities. These do require, again, that an agreement be on file with DIR in order to utilize these services, but it's as easy as logging into a portal and you tell us the service you need, and then we go get that service done for you with that contracted vendor. So this slide kind of gives you an idea of how our shared technology services program here is modeled. We've negotiated a contract with a multi-sourcing services integrator, or an MSI, and that vendor is Capgemini. And Capgemini kind of handles the overall program management of our shared technology services program, as well as the vendors and the services that those vendors provide through this program to you, our customers. So Capgemini kind of handles, the customer relationship management, the business operations, the marketplace management, things like that. They just kind of oversee this program for us. Then the specific offerings available include things Texas private cloud services. I'll talk a little bit more about those next. The other data center services include public cloud manager offerings. We have mainframe services available for our customers who are utilizing mainframes in their IT worlds. We also have technology solution services available through this program. Print, mail, and digitization services, as well as security operations, are also available through our data center services offerings. This program also includes the texas.gov portal, which our customers are local governments or state agencies who put services through that portal that then allows all of us to do business with the state of Texas. So that program is a multi-billion-dollar website and contract where services are available for the general public to utilize through the state. We also offer managed security services through this program as well. I'll talk a little bit more about those. And then this program does also include the Open Data Portal, which is the official state repository of publicly available electronic data. That's where you, our customers, can post electronic data out on the portal, thereby making it available to the general public. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about that program as well. So under our data center services program, again, we've got Capgemini kind of acting as the overall program manager. SIAC is the vendor who is just charged with keeping the state's data center safe. So they're basically keeping those bad actors out of the state's data centers. So they're actively doing things like threat identifications, security incident, event management, taking care of privileged access topics, things like that. So that vendor, again, is just charged with keeping the state's data center safe, keeping those bad actors out. Deloitte has a contract available for things like technology solution services. That includes things like technology planning services, solution consulting services, project delivery services. Deloitte also has a contract available for things like application services, application development, maintenance, legacy modernization services. If you've got some outdated apps that maybe you need to bring more into modern standards, those services are available as well. Also, staff augmentation services for IT-related topics are available through this program as well. Private cloud services through our data center services. That vendor is Atos. And an example of private cloud would be that, for example, we know that the storage for body cameras is unbelievably huge. And sometimes people, entities don't have that storage space available on their own systems for that data. That's where our private cloud offerings can come in as a resource to our customers, because that data is so large that sometimes you need to put it on a private server. So Atos has services available for things like disaster recovery services, backup as a service, helping with data center facilities on that topic. So that's an example of how private cloud services are available to you, our customers, as well.
And Tom, there's a question in the chat. Is there a way to check if you're a member of the shared technology services options?
Yes, if you will drop an email back to us with your entity name, the screen name shows anonymous attendee. So if we know what entity you are with, we can certainly check and see if your agency or your municipality or your school does have an agreement on file with us. We can certainly check that information for you. So if you can give us your entity name, I'll drop you an email once I can get that verified for you. Okay, so we've also got public cloud services available through this program as well. Rackspace offers like Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google, and Oracle services available through this. There are managed cloud services available. Email and Office 365 is available through this program as well. And I know a lot of your entities use that program. And then there's also geographic information systems available for things like doing, aerial shots, things like that. So those types of services are available through this program as well. We also offer mainframe services for our customers who are utilizing mainframes in their IT worlds. Obviously things are migrating toward the cloud, but there's still entities who utilize mainframes in their IT world. So Atos provides mainframe services to our customers. And then Xerox has a contract available for things like managed print and mail services, bulk mailings, digitization services. Also, document management systems informations are also available through this program as well. So again, those are the services that are available. These do require that an agreement be on file with DIR. And if you have questions about that, just shoot us an email with your entity name and we can verify if you do or don't have a service agreement on file with us. Okay, texas.gov. Again, if you've renewed your auto registration online, you've used the texas.gov portal that allows all of us to do business with the state of Texas. There are basically two vendors who make texas.gov work. One of them is Deloitte. So they have the contract in place for making sure that that internet portal is up and running and that the applications and the services available through that portal are all in good working order. So they're responsible for things like, also making sure that the payment portal is up and running. The Texas by Texas digital assistant, which allows a single source sign-on to do multiple things on texas.gov. So if anybody needs to renew their auto registration and also a cosmetology license or a massage therapy license, that can all be done through the texas.gov portal. So, for example, if you do go on to texas.gov to renew your auto registration, as you're clicking through those services you need, that part is all handled by Deloitte. But when you go to enter your credit card information to buy those services that you just purchased, that part is all handled by Tyler Technologies. So they process payments through the texas.gov portal and then make sure that that payment is compliant and that it is then appropriated to the right accounting system through the comptroller's office. Incidentally, Tyler Technologies also offers payment services to for example, a local government. If you need to put a payment portal out on the texas.gov portal for customers to pay bills, those types of services are also available through the texas.gov portal. So there's a little background on how the texas.gov portal works. Managed security services. This is one of the hottest programs that our customers utilize through this program at DIR. So AT&T is the vendor who provides managed security services to you, our customers, through this program. They offer things like security monitoring and device management. So that includes things like intrusion detections, malware detections, managing firewalls, also incident responses, doing things like digital forensics and response preparedness functions. They also offer compliance and risk assessments, things like vulnerability and risk assessments, web scanning assessments as well. So you might remember back in August of 2019, there were 23 counties hit with ransomware in the state of Texas, and it locked down their systems. Fortunately, through this agreement, we were able to step in and help get those counties, get that ransomware removed from those counties after that attack happened. We can have boots on the ground within hours in the event of an intrusion at your entities if this agreement is on file with us. And we always encourage our customers to have this agreement on file with us just in case you need it. You're never charged for any of the services unless you need them. Because in the event of an intrusion, like a cybersecurity attack, you know that minutes, hours, and days count. So the sooner you get on those, the better off, the chances of getting that removed. I will tell you that all 254 counties in the state have this agreement on file with us, and they use it to secure their election systems come election season. So there's another example of how managed security services can be a benefit to your entity. And then the Open Data Portal. This is the official state repository of publicly available electronic data. What that basically means is, depending on your entity type, if you're a local government or higher ed or a school district or even state agencies, you can see there's a number of different categories available on this portal that allow you to post electronic data out to the general public, thereby making that available to them. When the Department of Agriculture started posting on the Open Data Portal, these are typically larger data sets that are posted out here on this portal, by the way. But when the Department of Ag started posting information out here, they let us know that their public information requests dropped by 60%. So that's another avenue that can be available if you need to post large data sets out to the general public. The Open Data Portal program is available to do that. We post our cooperative contract sales data from FY10 all the way up to the current date. So any of you can go out to the Open Data Portal under the Business and Economy section and see who's bought what through DIR's cooperative contracts for the last 12, 13 fiscal years now. So again, these are typically larger data sets like tax rolls, things like that. But depending on your entity type, this program is available to post electronic data out there. We then manage that data for you. You don't have to manage it on your own systems. So on your PDF version of the slides, by the way, I hope you all got the slides. I did send those out to you this morning. This link right here is live in that PDF slide. So I'm going to try to do a quick demo for you in the second half of our presentation today and kind of show you where you can find information on the Open Data Portal. So I've also given you links to the DIR YouTube channel where you can watch short little videos about our shared technology services. They're about 3 or 4 minutes in length, and it just kind of gives you a little more information on how they can benefit your entities. I've also given you the main link to the DIR YouTube channel. There's other things out there that might be of interest to you. Things like how to write a statement of work, other programs. So feel free to access those at your leisure. So we've talked about our shared technology services. That's where we do it for you, our customers. Let's switch gears now and talk about our cooperative contracts program. And this might be where most of you might be familiar with DIR and you've used our cooperative contract vendors. This is where you can go buy things like hardware, software items. It includes technology-based training, which is also instructor-led training. There's other technology services available. There are IT staffing contracts available where you can bring contractors in to do IT work at your entities. It includes our deliverables-based IT services contracts. I'll talk a little bit more about those. And then this is also where that bulk purchasing initiative lies within DIR as well. That's part of our cooperative contracts program. I'm not going to talk about the statement of work and exemption review today because that only applies to state agencies. And we don't have any state agencies on with us today, so those rules don't apply to you who are on today. So why use our DIR cooperative contracts? Well, first of all, they create savings. You know, we leverage the state's buying power to get the lowest prices and the best discounts that we can with the vendors who propose products and services to us. So if you remember the slide I showed, there's a large number of eligible entities who can buy through DIR. So we always contain best value in our negotiations. What's in the best value of the state and of you, our customers. And then it does also give us that bulk purchasing initiative opportunity from time to time when we know that certain IT products and services are in unusually high demand from our customers. So it does give us that opportunity to initiate those short-term deeper discount agreements. It also streamlines the purchasing process for you, our customers, because we've already done that heavy lifting for you. You know, we've done the RFO, we've negotiated the contracts, put everything in place for you. So that reduces, you know, the purchasing and contract cycle time, and it also reduces any duplicate efforts because you don't have to do that RFO or that bid now. It also gives you access to do business with our hub vendors. We've got a large number of both prime contract holders as well as hub certified resellers who are available to use through DIR's cooperative contracts. There's also benefits for the vendors as well. It simplifies the sales process for them because they go directly to you or you go directly to them and you work directly with them. It's up to the vendors then to report to us once a month what they're selling on their DIR contracts and who they sold it to, at what price and discount they sold it at, and if they used any resellers or subcontractors. So it also gives vendors access to do business with public entities like the state agencies, like higher ed, like local govs and schools. So last year in FY23, which is September 1 through August 31st, our cooperative contracts generated over $3.39 billion in sales last fiscal year. And this kind of shows you what that spending breakdown looked like. So keep in mind that by statute, state agencies are required to use DIR first for their IT products and services purchases. That doesn't apply to you here today, but by statute, state agencies are required to use DIR. But you'll notice here, so they made up about 28% of that spending last year. But K through 12 and our local government customers made up about 55% of that spending last year. Now, part of that is just due to the fact that there's more local governments and school districts in Texas than there are state agencies. So some of that, you know, is kind of a numbers game too. But higher ed made up about 15% of that spending. And then our out-of-state and assistance organizations customers made up about 3% of that spending. That all generated down into about $400 million in savings to you, our customers, and to the state of Texas by utilizing DIR's cooperative contracts. The other really cool thing about that is that of that spending, about 37% of it was done with hub vendors. Yay, that, you know, over $1 billion in sales going to our hub vendors is really a good spending amount. So thank you, and we appreciate you doing business with our hub vendors. Okay, before I go on, I see a question from Ron. He asks, is the DIR price the only pricing that can be used or a starting point for cost and quotes? So Ron, we negotiate the contract for a commodity item, and I'm talking a commodity item here because for services, it's different. We negotiate a % discount off of MSRP. That is kind of the starting point that the vendor is required to sell at that required discount or better. So you're kind of correct there in that it is a starting point, but you can negotiate better discounts with our vendors. So, you know, if you're seeing that something is being offered at 25% off of MSRP and maybe you're buying 30 of those items. Don't be afraid to try to ask for a better discount, because you have that flexibility under our cooperative contracts program to negotiate better prices. But it is required that the vendor sell at the contracted discount or better. I hope that answered your question. So what types of commodity items can you buy through DIR's cooperative contracts? Well, this kind of gives you an idea of the types of products that you can buy. It's not an all-inclusive list, but more of a general overview of the types of items that you can procure. Things like computers, whether they're desktops, laptops, tablets, the Microsoft Surface Pro series, all different brands, Dell, Lenovo, HP are available. Hundreds of different brands of software are available, doing any number of functions. Things like printers and copiers, law enforcement type products like security cameras, surveillance and body cameras, drones are available. Other items include things like digital photography, projectors, cybersecurity products, video conferencing. We've got a certain set of contracts that offer specifically classroom interactive products, hardware and software focused on learning environments. So this, again, we've just recently started awarding artificial intelligence products and services. So this is kind of a high-level overview of the types of commodity items that are available through DIR's cooperative contracts. We also have service-based contracts available, things like IT staffing services, technology-based training services. Again, that includes instructor-led training. We have seat management contracts available. If you need to, outsource your computers and software to a vendor, you can do that through our end-user IT outsourcing services. We have cybersecurity services available, comprehensive web development if you need to redo or update your websites. We've got vendors offering contracts for those services. Again, mapping services available, cabling services if you need to run new lines and jacks for computers in a new building that you might have, or you're redoing a building. There's also telecom products and services available. That includes things like video and web conferencing. That's where you can also get Zoom, WebEx, those types of telecom products as well. Also includes interpreter services, as long as it's over the phone or video. That does not include in-person interpreter services, but as long as there's that technology component to it, there are contracts offering interpreter services. We also have, as I mentioned, IT staffing services available. Maybe you've got an IT need at your entities and you don't have somebody on staff to do that work for you. We've got a large number of vendors who offer contract services for different job categories. And this kind of shows you some of the different job categories that are available through our IT staffing services contracts. There's also specialist areas available. Maybe if you need a drone operator or something like that, those types of services are also available. We do also offer internships. We work in conjunction with Austin Community College, who can then work in conjunction with other institutions of higher ed to offer internships for IT through our staffing contracts. And we also have deliverables-based IT services contracts available. The acronym here is DBITS. These are service-based contracts that you can use for things like application development, maintenance, support, maybe migration services, data warehousing services. Maybe you need IT assessments and planning services, kind of doing an assessment of your current systems and things like that. So these are service-based contracts that, instead of a price list, these work from a statement of work. And we're going to talk about how to write a statement of work this afternoon as well. But these are service-based contracts that are project-based rather than product-based. So when you pull up a DBITS contract, you'll see a statement of work template attached to that contract. Okay, I've talked about our bulk purchasing initiatives, and right now we've got some really good things going through the end of December. So if y'all need to buy computers or signature software, we've got some really good deals going right now with Dell and HP. We've got software available for Adobe Sign and DocuSign. I know we all use both of those in our everyday lives. And then for our shared technology services customers who are utilizing cloud services, we've got some Oracle cloud services available on bulk purchase right now too. So bottom line is bookmark this link and check it frequently on the DIR website to see what we have available. Again, there is no minimum or maximum on bulk purchasing initiatives. You can buy one item or you can buy 4,000 items if it is available on a bulk purchasing initiative. And the bulk purchasing initiatives are open to all of our eligible DIR customers. So take a look at those. So Letitia asks, how long will those prices be available for? The best answer I can give you is it depends, Letitia, because it depends on it depends on what we negotiate with those vendors. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months. Again, there's not really a set time frame on these. I believe the hardware ones end at the end of December. Because some folks are trying to spend money by the end of the calendar year. So I think the hardware ones might end at the end of December. I'd have to look to see what the software end dates are. But if you go to this link on the DIR website right here, you'll see the contract documents as to when those bulk purchases end. It does clearly state an end date on those. You bet. You are welcome. I also have a question. Is it unusual that at the end of the year, Dell and HP bulk buy happen again? So again, it depends on that. When we negotiated these with Dell, the agreement was we would run these through the end of December, I believe. And again, I can go out and check the contract documents on this link right here. It'll show you the end date, what Dell and HP are planning to do for. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to have another one next year. So, and it could be maybe for different brands as well. Maybe Lenovo might hop in next year. You never know. Again, so when you guys know that you have bulk needs, let us know, because that gives us then the ability to go back to our vendors who hold those contracts and attempt to negotiate these bulk purchasing agreements. Therefore, y'all can use them then when they're in place. So these can change. Just check the website frequently to see what we currently have available. I hope that answered your question. Okay. We also offer telecom products and services that you can utilize through DIR as well, and we do that in 3 ways. We manage the Capital Complex telephone system. We have our Texan contracts available. Those are Texas Agency Network contracts. Those offer things like voice services. That includes local and long distance services, as well as data offerings, and that includes internet services. So the Texan contracts are where you can utilize things like local and long distance services for your entities, as well as internet services. And then there's other telecom services available through this program as well. That includes things like cell phones, smartphones, data plans. There are conferencing services available through telecom offerings as well. Other services include things like the IT infrastructure for call centers, phone management services for the PBXs that sit on our desks when we're in the office. So those types of telecom related services and other services are also available through our Texan contracts as well. So a couple of things about our cooperative contract documents. When you pull up that vendor contract on the DIR website, you're going to notice common elements between all of those cooperative contract vendors. So on that vendor contract page, you're going to see the contract document itself, and that will include any exceptions that were negotiated with that vendor at the time that that DIR contract was awarded. The Appendix A is the standard terms and conditions that are specific to that DIR vendor contract. Your Appendix B is going to be the hub subcontracting plan, and that's going to tell you 2 things. That's going to tell you, 1, if the vendor is self-performing under the scope of their DIR contract. In other words, they're doing it all. They're providing the product, they're providing all the supporting services for that product, they're self-performing. or it will tell you B, if they are utilizing any resellers or subcontractors under the scope of their DIR contract. So keep in mind that vendors can update that hub subcontracting plan at any point during the term of their DIR contract. So they can add or remove resellers or subcontractors at any point. What they cannot do is they cannot use any resellers or subcontractors that are not on their approved hub subcontracting plan. We're going to talk about that in our second half this afternoon. And your Appendix C will be either a pricing index. If it's a commodities-based contract, it will list the brands available and the discount percent off of those brands. Or if it's a services-based contract, that Appendix C is going to be a statement of work template. So it'll depend on the scope of the contract you're using, whether you'll see a pricing index or a statement of work template. You'll also see attached any other appendices that might be needed for that contract. You might see service agreements attached, or you might see lease agreements attached if they are available. You might also see a statement of work template attached maybe for the service portion of a commodity item. It's just going to depend. You will also see the attached request for offer attached to that vendor page. That's what DIR used for advertising for vendor responses, and then eventually what that contract was negotiated and awarded under. So you will always see that RFO attached for your file as well. You will also see any amendments that have been processed for that DIR vendor contract. So any contract page or any contract you're using, just use that vendor contract page to download all your documents for your contract or your procurement file. Couple of things to remember about our cooperative contracts. Remember that there is survivability built into our DIR cooperative contracts. So that means that you can issue a PO to any of our DIR cooperative contract vendors at any point before their contract expires with us. And survivability is going to allow that order to play out in full, even if that vendor's contract expires with us. So for example, let's say you've got a 1-year initial term and you've got 3 1-year renewal options with that vendor that you need to place an order for. But you look at the vendor contract on the DIR website and you see that it fully expires on February 1st of 2024, and there are no renewal options remaining. It's okay. You can still place your order with that DIR vendor, and survivability will allow it to play out in full, even if that vendor's contract expires with us. So we might be over here on the backside trying to negotiate a replacement contract with that vendor, but things could be different under that new contract. It could have different pricing or different terms and conditions. You know, the other issue is maybe that vendor might not get a replacement contract because sometimes negotiations can break down. So remember that survivability is built into our cooperative contracts, so you can place orders with our vendors. Survivability will allow that to play out even if their contract expires with us. So the vendor needs to keep reporting to us under that expired contract until they fill all their vendor orders. So you can find that clause in the terms, T's and C's of each DIR vendor contract. Be aware of any areas where vendors might seek to vary from our terms and conditions. If you guys have the ability to negotiate additional terms and conditions with our DIR vendors. So if you've got CJIS requirements or HIPAA requirements, or you need additional acceptance criteria, you have that flexibility to negotiate those with our vendors. The point is that you're in the driving seat with those additional T's and C's, because we've already negotiated the T's and C's with the vendor and put those in place as part of their contract documents. You all can pull those T's and C's from any DIR vendor page. So you have the ability then to negotiate additional T's and C's when you're in the driving seat using that master contract. Be aware of any documents that vendors might be asking you to sign. There may be some exceptions for third-party license agreements. you know, it might be that they're asking you to sign maybe just an order acknowledgement or something like that. But if you're being asked to sign something and you're not real sure if you should sign it or not, and you don't see it attached to the vendor contract page, reach out to the DIR contract manager, your contact person for that vendor contract. We can help answer those questions for you as to whether you should sign that document or not. Okay, I see a couple of questions here. Question, since the resellers can be updated at any time, would an organization be notified if a vendor is removed from a contract if they were utilized while they were under the DIR? So, Brooke, when we update a hub subcontracting plan, we upload it to the vendor page with the approval date noted on that hub subcontracting plan. So if there has been a change, if a vendor removes a reseller or a subcontractor, that would be reflected in that updated HSP on that vendor contract page. And we do put the date of the updated form as part of that contract document. So does that answer your question? I hope. So we wouldn't make a public announcement to our customers if a vendor does change their hub subcontracting plan. We kind of leave it to our customers to make sure that they're checking that contract and making sure that the hub subcontracting plan is still accurate and current. Okay, next question. Does DIR advertise their cooperative contracts? And if so, where? The Houston Chronicle or any local newspaper? So no, we don't advertise our cooperative contracts, but when we do a solicitation, we post that RFO out to the Electronic State Business Daily or out to the ESBD. So that's where we advertise for vendor responses if a vendor is interested in responding to any one of our RFOs. So when we advertise for vendor responses, we post those not only on the DIR website, but we do post those to the ESBD so vendors can pull down the documents there. I'm also going to show you this afternoon where you can pull a list of current cooperative contract vendors from the Open Data Portal. So that's where you can see a current list of all current DIR contract holders. So I'll show you that in a little bit. We have another question. Where can we find the survivability terms in a DIR contract? Those are typically in the terms and conditions document, the Appendix A, standard terms and conditions. That's where you will find the survivability clause for any DIR contract. Okay, next question. Are these contracts only for technology solicitations? Yes, that is all DIR does, is technology solicitations for our customers to utilize for IT products. We don't do other things like playground equipment or anything like that. We only do technology. And Teresa, I missed that last question before. Can you? Here, let me.
From David Lopez.
Yes.
Are we able to be notified via email when a new items are posted?
So, and short answer to that question, David, is no. I'm going to talk at the end about how you can sign up for our IT Sourcing Digest newsletter, and that is a weekly publication that is sent to all DIR customers, notifying you of what new contracts have been awarded to vendors or what contracts have been renewed. But when we don't necessarily do a new notification to our customers about anytime somebody adds something new, or if we do use that IT Sourcing Digest though to notify our customers of new contracts that have been awarded. So okay, I hope that answered your question. Okay, yes, okay. David asks, can you please post the website link that cover the advertising requirement? David, that would be available in the RFO document for each DIR contract. The advertising link is to the ESBD where we post that. we can share the ESBD link with you. That's where we do post the open solicitations for the vendor community to respond to us. If that's of help to you, we can certainly share that ESBD link with you. Okay, so with that, I've got 2:58. Why don't we take a little break here? The second half is a little more interactive and goes a little bit quicker, but we're about halfway done. Why don't we take a little break here? It's 2:58. Why don't we come back at 3:10? How does that sound? And I will see you back here then at 3:10. Thanks, everybody. Okay, everybody back and ready to rock and roll through the second part here. I hope you're finding this helpful information. That's my first goal of today's webinar, is that I hope you're finding this helpful. Have a couple of questions. Can you let us know if this recording will be available later? I would love to share it with our colleagues in IT. We'll take a look at that, Letitia. We don't typically, post the training video, but that doesn't mean we can't. So when we get done today, let me talk to some internal folks and we'll see if we can maybe make a link available and share that link with you. Okay, so moving on to the second half of our presentation today, I'm going to take a little bit of a turn here, and rather than walk through the next few slides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over to the DIR website and I'm going to give you a demo of the slides forthcoming in this section right here. So can you all see my DIR screen now? I hope so. Yes. Okay, good. Thank you. So the next few slides are going to kind of exhibit what I'm going to do here, and just kind of searching the DIR website. We redesigned this a couple of years ago, tried to make it a little more user-friendly for both our customers and our vendor community, tried to classify information a little bit better so it helps you navigate to maybe getting where you need to go a little easier. One thing you'll notice on each page is that this ribbon up here is going to remain constant on any DIR page that you are on. So that'll kind of help you navigate where you are. First of all, don't worry about a sign-in or anything. This is for state agencies only when they need to access portals and report to us, but you guys don't need to worry about signing in or having any sign-in to search the DIR website. It is open to the public. So here you can see, like under IT solutions and services, there's certain categories you can go to. If you're looking for our DBITS contracts, or you're looking for information security, or you need our telecom contracts or staffing contracts, you've got different categories available here. You can also go to certain program areas if you're looking for our cooperative contracts, or if you want more information on our shared technology services program, that information is available. So there's certain program areas that you can go to as well. There's also policy and guidance if you need like information security, or you need legislative topics or things like that. You can click on certain, policy and guidance materials here. We've got our resource library available if you need a statement of work template or something like that. Those are available in the resource library. One of the neater things is you can do the IMA dropdown. So if you're a state agency or a higher ed or a school district or a local government, you can go to certain pages that will reflect topics that will probably apply to your entity type. So feel free to use that function as well. Then, of course, we've got the ever popular search DIR function right here. That's kind of what I wanted to demo for you today, because I know a lot of you search for contracts and brands and things like that. So when you click on that, the search function right here, don't really worry about being on all pages and content, because most of the time, all of us are searching for contracts and vendors. So that's the tab that you want to be on here when you're looking for certain contracts or brands on the DIR website. And here you can type in, certain keywords or vendor names or categories, or, any keywords that you want to do. But one thing I wanted to just kind of demo for you today, let's say you want to look for Microsoft contracts. So I'm going to type in the word Microsoft. You'll probably get some drop-down suggestions here. You don't need to use them, but you can click search here. And again, make sure you're on contracts and vendors. I'm going to give that just a second to work. And instead of all results, you're probably going to be looking for contracts that are related to Microsoft. So you're going to want to click on contracts right here. And what that's going to do is that's going to pull up a list of DIR contracts that are potentially associated with the word Microsoft that you just typed into your search function. And you can further down select here if you want to look for certain categories like cable modems or computers. You can look for certain products or services here. You can also further down select by brands. You can come down here and look at all the brands that we've got available through our contracts as well. We're trying to fix this right here, but you can also search by hub types, whether they're hub or non-hub. You can also search by certain commodity codes that you may be looking for in your search criteria as well. So in our search here, I just want to look for things that are associated with Microsoft. And what this did is pulled in a list of contracts that may be associated with the word Microsoft. And as you scroll down here, you'll see the different contracts, and you'll see that there's probably 3 different pages. One of the neat things you can do here is you can download those results into an Excel spreadsheet. So I clicked on that function right there, and I'm going to give that just a second to work. And now I want to view that file. So here is our search results that we just pulled in from our search criteria on the DIR website. What this is going to show you is the vendor name. It's going to give you the contract. It's going to give you just a quick overview of the contract. I don't typically take that one out because it's just a really long section right here. So you can also see who the DIR contract manager is. So if you have questions about this contract, Suzanne is your contact here at DIR. It shows you the contract term end date. That is not the full contract expiration date because there may be renewal options available yet. So this is the current term end date. It shows you if that prime vendor is a hub vendor or a non-hub vendor, and if they are hub, what their hub status is. It gives you the vendor contact name and the vendor contact information. Now, you'll see here that Microsoft 4471 is listed multiple times on this spreadsheet. That's because there are resellers associated with that contract. So you're probably going to want to reach out to the resellers for any contact information on that Microsoft, on that contract of 44, what number was that? 4471. So if you see it listed multiple times here, check over in column K because there may be resellers associated with it. You will see the contact information over here is the vendor, the reseller contact information, if they are hub or non-hub and what their hub status is, and also the contact information for those resellers. So if you see a contract listed multiple times, check over here for resellers. If you see it listed only once, you will see that there is no reseller over here. So you're going to want to contact the prime vendor for any contact or pricing information or questions on their DIR contract. And the same thing with Dell. Dell is associated with Microsoft in some form. You will see that Dell has resellers associated with them. So you can use that spreadsheet to pull contact information for vendors to reach out to them. Just kind of a little search tool there. But in my example here, let's say, I'm just going to use this as an example. Let's say you're looking for the Microsoft Surface Pro computer because you need to buy 3 or 4 of them. I'm going to cheat on this one because back in the day I used to manage this contract, but I know that this contract right here offers the Microsoft Surface Pro series. So once you click on that contract, you will see here that this is with Microsoft's corporation. You will see who the vendor contact is, and you will also see for each DIR contract who the DIR contact person is. So if you have questions about the contract, this is the DIR contact. This is the vendor contact right here. So you can kind of get an idea of what's offered on this contract. And right here, I see the Microsoft Surface products are available. So I want to come down here and I kind of want to see what products and services are available. It's education IT hardware. You can also see what commodity codes are associated with this RFO or with this contract. You can see what brands are available on this particular DIR contract. This is where you will find all the contract documents, and that's the slide I showed you a little while ago of the contract, the terms and conditions, the hub subcontracting plan. Looks like this one was just updated in June. This is my answer that I shared with you about where you can find the most recent hub form. So you can look at this and know that this one was updated on June 27th of 23. So they made some changes to their hub subcontracting plan. Here's their Appendix C pricing index. Here is the advertised RFO that contract was negotiated and awarded under, and there have been amendments processed for this DIR contract. You can also get information on how to order through this DIR contract. You can also see a list of resellers that are associated with this contract. So Abacus, B2B, CDW, they're all approved resellers to sell under this DIR contract. You will see if they are hub resellers or non-hub resellers. So you've got some choices that you can reach out to for pricing or anything on this DIR contract through their resellers. Each DIR contract has a vendor website available for it. You can click on that vendor website and it's going to open up a window that is specific to that DIR contract. And it talks specifically about this contract and what's available on it. One thing you're going to want to look for is their price list. So if it's a commodities-based contract, you should be able to pull up a price list for that vendor. If it's a services-based contract, like our DBITs or staffing or another service contract, you won't see a pricing list because those are project-based and they're going to work from a statement of work. But let's say you want to pull up their pricing list for this contract and see what is available to buy through the Microsoft Surface Pro series with Microsoft. You can open that up. And voila, here's their price list for the Microsoft Surface Pro series. Whichever book you want, what warranties they offer, you will see their commercial pricing. And if you're in education, they've got a separate tab for education pricing. So there is your price list. It shows you the part number, the MSRP, the discount percent, and the DIR price. So use that tool to find any pricing that you might need. So there's your starting point for pricing for DIR contracts. I can also come over here and come back to the DIR website. And let's say I'm looking for Adobe. And I want to see what contracts might be associated with the brand Adobe. I click on contracts. Now here, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to search for the Adobe brand on this. So I'm going to come down here and there's Adobe. That's going to narrow my search down to probably 4 contracts that probably offer the Adobe brand. You can see that SHI is a value-added reseller that offers both Adobe and Microsoft products. Same with Insight Public Sector. Journey Ed offers Adobe products as well as the Dell contract. So if I want to look and see what Journey Ed has available for Adobe, I'm going to click on that contract page. Going to kind of just see here that this contract includes Adobe, Nuance. They also offer a reseller for Microsoft's products. So I want to look more at this contract. I want to see what brands are available. They've got Adobe, Nuance, and they are authorized to resell the Microsoft Surface Pro series. I can see the contract documents for this vendor. I can see if there are any there is a reseller available. Now I might want to come up here and go to their vendor website and see their price list for the Adobe products that I'm looking for. So I'm going to click on that vendor link. And I'm going to see a lot of information pertaining to this contract. I want to see what their offerings and discounts are. Aha, here is their Adobe Acrobat price list. So if you want to open that up, You can click on that and give it just a second to work. Sometimes there it is. And aha, here is their Adobe Pro DC series. Here is the description of the products. Here are their terms. Here is the list price, and here is the DIR price. So that's where you can typically find commodity-based contracts and the pricing schedules. And you can, depending on what they have available, you can kind of flip through and see what their rates are. So use those tools to gather pricing information from our vendors. And I don't want to save that, no. So there's a quick search on again how to search the DIR website. And again, if you if you have any questions, or if you can't find something, or things look a bit wonky, just reach out to us, and we can get you headed in the right direction on that. Okay, see a couple of questions here. Do you list MWSBC anywhere within the DIR contracts? Teresa, can you provide some input on that?
Hub vendors, so if there are resellers, yes, they will be identified on the contract page. If it is a subcontractor that's listed on a contract, you can look at the contract documents for each award page, and under that will list their Hub subcontracting plan. So if they have any Hub vendors, it will be listed on that Hub subcontracting plan.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Have another question. How would we search for a service? Example, I would like a vendor that can provide penetration testing. How can I find vendors that have a DIR contract for that service? Let's try to search by a keyword here. Type in keywords penetration testing. Type in, make sure you're clicked on contracts. Okay, so when it comes to penetration testing, I tend to gravitate more towards security type contracts. So I would probably look for contracts that would be in things like cybersecurity, or you can search by other keywords. This offers interpreter services. Let's see if we can further down select by a category. So this is where you can further down select and look for certain categories that might, let's look for security services and see what that might narrow down. So this offers law enforcement, surveillance, security monitoring, emergency preparedness. Let's see, I know that might be a service. Let's just type in the word penetration and see what that does. We've got some migration going on with the website right now. We're migrating to a new platform. So some of the searches might be a bit wonky at the time, but that's where you can type in keywords for any types of commodities or services that you might be looking for. So I would rely on that search box. And if you can't find something, but you're pretty sure we would have it, just reach out to us. We can help search those items for you as well. Okay, the next question, since DIR has existing contracts with each of these vendors, then why would an entity require a separate contract since many vendors reference they already have a contract with DIR? Yes, we have negotiated the master contract with these vendors, which allows you to go directly to that vendor to buy whatever you might need. So we've already negotiated that contract with the vendor. You issue your purchase order directly to that vendor that allows you then to buy whatever you need. So if they already have a DIR contract, that means that we've already done that work with that vendor and we've awarded that contract to the vendor. That then allows you, our customers, to go directly to the vendor to get what you need. So does that answer your question? Yes, we do have the existing contracts. You would issue your PO directly to that, and then you manage your agreement with that vendor. Okay, and which entities would they be registered for in regards to MWSBC? So our contracts are registered as hub vendors with the state of Texas. So depending on their hub status, that is their kind of certification that they are hub certified with DIR. Okay, next question. Are we able to build quotes through the DIR website to request the same item from different vendors once? Or a bid. So we don't have a quote building mechanism. The searches I just kind of showed you are the ways that you can search for pricing through vendors. So we don't really have a way to build a quote. That's why our program is go direct to go to those vendors to get the pricing that you may need on those items. And again, you can negotiate better discounts with our vendors too. Yes, is pricing on DIR agreements negotiable or non-negotiable? It is, again, we award a percent discount off of MSRP. Let me go back to that Microsoft example. Doggone it. And the one we looked at was 4471. Under the contract documents right here, this is where you will see the pricing index. And once you pull up that pricing index, that will show you the discount percent off of those items that they offer right here. So that's your starting point for the discounts. You can negotiate additional discounts with our vendors. Okay, where in the RFO is the website that satisfies the advertising requirement? I'm currently looking at TMP 552. Not real sure how to answer your question, David. We do post to the ESBD, and that RFO document is what was posted to the ESBD. As far as I know, that's the only posting that we do, and we keep internal documents for those postings as far as validating when it ran and how long it was posted, and we do keep those internal records. The RFO document is the document that we did post to the ESBD, and that's why we attach that to every DIR contract, so you have that record in the event of an audit. Okay, one other thing I wanted to show you here is I talked about the open data portal on how you can access information through that portal. And that website, again, the link is current in the open data portal slide, but it's data.texas.gov. And if you want to kind of look at a history of sales data for our cooperative contracts program, you can go out to data.texas.gov. And this is the screenshot that I showed you on the open data portal slide. And if you click on the business and economy tab right here, one resource that is available to you is the official current active cooperative contracts list. You can export that list of current vendors right here, and that will tell you who currently holds a cooperative contract with DIR. If you want to see some sales history of who has bought through DIR, we keep this updated. The last update was November 7th. So you can click on this link right here, and it gives you a little information about the data set and what information is included in it. But if you want to view the data, that information is right under this data tab right here. And that's going to pull in every entity since 2010 who has bought something through DIR's cooperative contracts. Let's see, who can I pick on today? Well, not pick on, but let's say you want to filter this information and you want to see who has bought some things through DIR's cooperative contracts. You can the filter was working yesterday. I don't see the filter here. Let's see if I can search for something. Let's just type in the word Pasadena and see what that brings up. Going to give it a minute to load. This is a large data set, so you may just need to wait a couple of minutes for the data to pull in. But again, this is where you can look at a history of words associated with Pasadena that may have bought through DIR's cooperative contracts. It's not normally this slow. I wonder if there are some bugs in the open data portal right now. I don't know what the problem is today. Let me go back up here. I'm going to go back to the home page and try to work through this again. I'm not seeing the filters. I don't know what is going on the open data portal today. I want to look at sales data. And I want to come over here. So the data that you can see here is you can see the entity name. So this is our agency. This is the 8th Court of Appeals. This is Schulenburg ISD, the Texas Board of Nursing. So like Worth ISD, you can see every entity that is bought through a vendor name, what the invoice amount was. These are not purchase order amounts. These are individual itemized invoice amounts. So you may see some things that are credits or just individual invoice amounts, because you might have one PO and invoice it against it many times. You'll see the RFO description. This was for IT security services. This was for technology-based training. This was the RFO number that the agency or the entity bought under. It shows you the organization type, and it gives you some contact information as well. So you can scroll over and read through this data at your leisure, but it does give you some history. Normally, I'm able to filter right here. There's a little filter right here, and I don't see that the filter is allowing me to filter anything right now. I was just on here yesterday looking for some data, and the filters don't seem to be showing up today. I don't know why that is. Well, let me type in another entity name and see. Okay, there's a if you typed in the word Grayson, you'll see that Grayson County has bought some things through DIR. Here's Grayson County College. This goes back to 2010. Normally, you can filter a fiscal year here, like if you wanted to pull in 2013. I'm not sure where this filter is not showing up here. There's usually a filter right here. But any words associated with Grayson, you can see the history that goes back to 2010, and you can also go right down here on the lower right to the next page of this data as well. I can do the same thing, let's say, with Waller. If I type in the word Waller, it would typically show me Waller County, the city of Waller, Waller ISD, all the entities that would be associated with the word Waller. But it looks like it's taken a long time to load. Again, this is a large data set, so I don't know why it's not cooperating with me today when everything was working nice and fine yesterday.
Well, Tom, while we're waiting on that, there's one question in the chat.
Okay.
Do we always need an agreement, or is issuing the PO and referencing the DIR contract enough?
So good question. And to answer your question on cooperative contracts, You don't need to have an agreement with DIR. You would issue the PO to that vendor and make sure that the vendor contract number is on your purchase order. That's for cooperative contracts. To utilize our shared technology services program, you would need to have an agreement with DIR. But under co-op, you don't need to have that agreement with us, and you would go directly to the vendor. Okay, so here's our Waller example. You can see that Waller County has bought some things. Waller ISD. I thought the city of Waller was on here too. I don't know why the Department of Housing and Community Services is on here. Something's wrong with the search criteria, because usually there's filters up here, and I'm not sure why it's but anyway, the open data portal, if you have other questions on it, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you, but this data is available to you. That's how you get to it on data.texas.gov. And if you want a current list of vendor contracts, you can find that under business and economy. You can download that here, and that's where you find the sales data. Okay, let's go back to our slides and we'll start wrapping this up here in a minute. So these are all the slides that I just went through. I demoed how to down select and do those things for you. There's the spreadsheet. So a couple of things about statements of work tips. There are certain DIR contracts that require a statement of work. Typically, those are service-based contracts. So you'll find a statement of work template attached for our DBITS contracts, for our end user IT outsourcing services, for IT security services, sometimes for cloud services when you're utilizing a statement of work. If you're utilizing our comprehensive web development contracts, our document imaging and enterprise content management, or maybe just as you're doing customizations, if you're integrating a bunch of things and you're customizing hardware, software, and it's one of those convoluted projects, you may want to do a statement of work for that as well. Under TAC Code 212, state agencies have to submit a statement of work to DIR for approval, but that rule does not apply to you on this call today. So that rule does not apply to any local govs, school districts, higher ed, or any of our eligible DIR customers. But the main takeaway here is that there are certain contracts that you will utilize for a statement of work rather than a commodity-based item. There are templates available for both waterfall and agile methods of technology. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those. So those templates are available. So when you write a statement of work, there are some planning things that you need to consider when you're getting ready to draft that statement of work. So define the need. Why are we doing this project? Make sure that that need is defined and everybody that's involved knows why you're doing this project, to maybe build a new database or migrate data to a new server. Also take the project approach rather than the task approach, because there could be many other different moving parts going along with this project that you're doing. So it's going to end up maybe being a project rather than a task. So it's just important to develop those statement of work elements that, that are going to help you manage that contract or that project along the way. And getting that right scope involves, getting everybody involved who may need to be involved at this project. That could be procurement, contracts, program specialists, maybe subject matter experts, your legal teams, your IT department, maybe your security team, making sure that they're all involved in helping write this statement of work, because that team collaboration kind of builds that, that solid business document. That's also going to kind of dictate how you're going to measure the success of this project as well, and how you're going to carry out that agreement with the vendor to get the work done that you need to get done with this project. So it's important to identify SMART goals. Make sure they're identifiable, achievable, measurable, they're realistic. So a SMART example is to grow online registration by 5% by fiscal year end. A not so smart goal would be to maximize potential of agency website traffic. Well, that is a goal, but what's the more measurable goal? Another example is to reduce licensure wait time to less than 2 minutes by the end of June. That's very measurable. That's very realistic. Another SMART goal is to double our capacity to deliver the disbursements by November 1. So just making sure you're making SMART goals and that they are measurable, and they'll allow you to guide then writing that statement of work. Developing that statement of work, are you going to use agile or waterfall technologies? Waterfall is very structured and a very well-known outcome of your project. Agile is a little more flexible and allows for customizations along the way. Also, who needs to be on the team to make this project succeed, and what risks do we need to identify, making sure we have mitigation plans in place, and then how are we going to measure the success of this project? So those are just items to keep in mind as you write a statement of work. Also, what methodology best supports this project? Again, waterfall works well with projects that have an assured predictability and known outcome. Agile is more intended for projects that require customizations or design. You might use a combination of both, or what we call Wagile. It's a combination of both waterfall and agile. Statements of work can be unique for each IT project, and some of those elements include the scope of the project. What is the scope of this project, and is that clearly defined? What are the roles and responsibilities of everyone involved? What deliverables do we need? Where do we need to be along the way? What are our milestones? What is the period of performance or the schedule for this project? Is it going to take us 6 months, a year, 2 years? Any service levels or acceptance criteria, make sure that those are all spelled out. Also, pricing and milestone payment schedules need to be defined as well. When are vendors going to invoice you? And also making any assumptions. What happens if this happens? What are we going to do about it? Let's assume that everything's probably not going to go as planned, but we need to have plans in place to address those assumptions as well. What about security standards or accessibility compliance? If you're redesigning or upgrading your website, remember, we all work in some form of government or another. We've got to make our websites accessible for the hearing and sight impaired. Evaluating responses, making sure that you have an evaluation plan in place. Do you need additional terms and conditions? What about a transition plan? Do you have a current vendor who's currently doing this, but you're transitioning to a new vendor? Do you have a transition plan in place? And then other things to consider are things like disaster recovery plans. Who's going to be hosting that data? Are you going to use data center services or host it on your own facility servers? Are you going to make a single award or multiple vendor awards? Just again, things to consider when you write a statement of work. Are the vendors eligible and qualified to do that work for you? And has that research been done? Are you comfortable with those vendors? There's links on the DIR website if you do have questions about writing IT statements of work, so feel free to access those as a resource. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at DIR. We're happy to provide input if you do need to write IT statements of work for any reason. So then when you do manage a cooperative contract with one of our DIR vendors, it's on then the purchasing entity to manage the aspects of that contract when you do use our cooperative contracts, making sure that the vendor is compliant with any requirements, reviewing schedules and milestones, knowing where those are and making sure that vendors know about those. Managing vendor performance, making sure that the vendor is performing to the standards that you require for this. And then also ensuring, and this is just something to keep in mind, that any vendor staff might need to have taken any required cybersecurity training. If they're going to be working with confidential data, or state agencies are required to have vendors take cybersecurity training if they have access to certain data. So just keep that in mind, that making sure that the vendor staff is trained. Then after the award, you focus on managing that contract in accordance with things like the defined scope. Again, we just talked about that. Is it clearly defined? Does everybody know what we're doing with this project? Also, the defined acceptance criteria, and is it at an agreed to price? Reviewing specified milestones. Are they clearly spelled out as to where we need to be along the way? And then for more agile type projects you might be doing, you're going to have several people involved from the planning process all the way up to user acceptance and testing. So again, you can have many different players involved from your entity as you're working on this project. Also have a kickoff meeting with that project, making sure that the vendor and the staff knows what the goals and the expected results of the project are. Reviewing any performance requirements. Does everybody know what's expected of them? What are the roles and responsibilities of all parties involved? What about clarifying escalation processes? What if something does need to escalate? Do you have a plan in place to handle those escalations? It's always better to manage vendor performance things early in the process so they don't mushroom up into something that gets harder to address. And then, of course, reviewing the schedule at that kickoff meeting is equally as important. Also checking deliverables. Are there status reports that are called out for? Do you have a disaster recovery plan in place for an IT project? What happens if a storm comes through or a disaster happens? Do you have a backup plan in place? User acceptance testing is, for example, is this database doing what we need it to do? Do you have a test group lined up? Also, accessibility. I talked about that if you're doing websites and you need to make sure it's accessible for hearing and sight impaired, making sure that accessibility requirements are being met for all of us who work in government. And also the acceptance criteria, monitoring that for compliance. Don't just check the box, make sure you read a deliverable or you're checking products. If you're ordering computers, make sure they didn't get wet or they're not damaged, things like that. Identifying areas of risk. We're all human. We can't possibly identify 100% of areas of risk, but do your due diligence to identify those risky areas. Identify any outstanding items that you might have missed. And part of that is just knowing the difference between a risk and an issue. A risk is something that could happen. An issue is a risk that has happened. For example, a risk is we could have a cybersecurity attack. An issue is, oh no, we've had a cybersecurity attack. Now what do we do? Having mitigation plans in place for each of those risks, communicating with stakeholders on the status of those. Risk is always a part of procurement and contract management, as well as IT in general. Also checking the quality, make sure you're getting what you expect, identifying items that are not compliant, having plans in place to bring those items into compliance. So, don't accept things that don't meet the quality that you expect in this. Checking budget, tracking those deliverables to milestones, reviewing invoices for correctness. Are they being submitted timely and are they correct? Again, just knowing what you're paying for, making sure you're getting it, and knowing when change orders are needed. Those are all part of potential points of managing some type of IT contract. There are hub opportunities available through DIR's contracts as well. It's important to remember that every DIR contract does include a hub subcontracting plan. Those can be updated at any point, so make sure you have a copy in your most recent file, the most recent copy in your file. If you do have a hub program manager, make sure your hub director or your hub person is involved early because they might need to seek clarification on that HSP form. For example, what dollar amounts or percentages might be utilized in the scope of that DIR contract. Also remember, vendors are required to submit a monthly progress assessment report to you and to DIR. It's important to make sure your hub person gets a copy of that PAR if you do follow a hub program. As I mentioned, any subcontractors not on the HSP will need to be added before they can be utilized. And our contracts do have hub goals for other services. It's 26%, and for commodity items, it's 21.1%. If you do have any questions about hub or how to utilize those vendors or the hub form, feel free to reach out to our team. More than happy to answer any questions for you. Again, the hub form is always Appendix B on any DIR contract. If you don't see it attached, just reach out to us. We can track that down for you. Maybe it's currently being updated and it just hasn't been uploaded yet, or we can track that form down for you. There is wording in the terms and conditions that vendors adhere to for reporting requirements, and part of that is that hub form. So you can find those typically in the Appendix A standard terms and conditions for reporting requirements. So if you do get a PAR form and you see that the vendor is using a subcontractor that's not on their approved hub subcontracting plan, stop work with that vendor and don't pay them yet, because they're non-compliant with their hub form. What they need to do is reach out to DIR and bring their hub form into compliance before any work or payments can continue. They need to keep that hub form current at all times. Here is our hub team. Teresa is on with us today. We've also got Lynn, Brianna, and Victor, and Patty is new to the hub group. She will soon be added to this slide, but feel free to reach out to anyone on the hub team if you do have any hub questions. A quick note on cybersecurity training. This affects all of us who work in local government or state government. So you probably get your emails of it's time to do your cybersecurity training. It's time for your cybersecurity training. Government Code 2054 is the state cybersecurity training program that required us to work in consultation with the Texas Cybersecurity Council. We had to certify at least 5 cybersecurity training programs. We've got many more than that in place, but it told us we have to have 5. It applies to all of us who work in state and local government, higher ed, and school districts to some level, and also to state contractors. So just keep in mind that we do have to do those cybersecurity training requirements. If you bring contractors in that are going to have access to state computer systems or databases, they do have to complete cybersecurity training in order to do that work for you. So there is more information on the DIR website when it comes to cybersecurity. Okay, going to wrap up and leave you with some resources. So you've got choices when it comes to DIR. You can do it yourself through our cooperative contracts, or you can look at utilizing our shared technology services if those programs are available. For our cooperative contracts, you don't need to have an agreement if you're an in-state customer and you meet eligibility requirements. You direct the vendors and you manage that contract with that vendor. Under our shared technology services, you do need to have an agreement on file with us, but it's as easy as logging into the portal and you tell us the service and we go get that service for you. Again, all of our contracts are competitively bid and do meet the state procurement rules. There's information for vendors on the DIR website. So if you're talking to a vendor and you ask them, do you have a DIR contract? They say, no, how do I get one? What is DIR? You can refer them to the website under the Selling Through DIR box. That is the vendor information page where they can read about how to become a prime contract holder or how to become a reseller or a subcontractor on a current DIR vendor's contract. That is under the Doing Business with DIR box on the DIR vendor homepage or on the DIR vendor page. You and them can also see our schedule of solicitation opportunities that we post on the DIR website. That shows you what we've got in the planning stage. It shows what we've got in pre-solicitation notices, or we're doing RFIs. You can also see what we currently have posted that vendors can currently access and provide responses back to us on. So utilize that, refer vendors to that, or just refer them to us and we can walk through their questions on how to become a DIR vendor. Use the DIR website. There's FAQs out there. We host webinars from time to time on procurement topics or IT topics or cybersecurity forums, things like that. I showed you the open data portal. There's information out there on how to do research or who's bought what through our contracts. Give your DIR contract manager a call. That's a very good resource for any contract related questions you might have with that DIR vendor contract. And we also invite you to join our mailing list. That's the IT Sourcing Digest. What that is a weekly publication that we send that tells you what new contracts we've awarded, any legislative things, any contracting things, what contracts we've renewed or have now expired or terminated, and any links to upcoming events. And you can find that on the DIR homepage. If you scroll to the bottom of the homepage, there's 4 boxes where you can sign up for communications. Click on that box and you'll be taken to a list of different ones. The one I'm talking about here is the IT Sourcing Digest. Once you click on that, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. Just a reminder to please use a work email address for that, because we do not accept personal emails for that mailer. Real quick, for our institutions of higher ed who are on with us today, 2 sessions ago, Texas Senate Bill 475 defined a need for a Texas Risk and Authorization Management Program, or TexRAMP. And what this bill basically said was, it ensures that cloud services are secure for Texas government services, and that includes state agencies, institutions of higher education, and public junior colleges. So if you're one of those entities and you are utilizing cloud services at those entities, you must use TexRAMP certified products and services. That information is available on the DIR website. You can see what vendors are currently approved for TexRAMP products and services. If you're not a state agency, higher ed, or public junior college, if you're a local government school district and you want to use cloud services that are TexRAMP certified, you can also see that data on the DIR website. So just keep that in mind, that rule does apply to certain entities under state government, that cloud services must be TexRAMP certified for your entities if you're utilizing those. There is information in the Texas Procurement and Contract Management Guide under Appendix 24 that does include a clause for those TexRAMP requirements when you are utilizing those. Okay, are there any questions before we end the webinar today? Feel free to put those in the chat, or you can drop one of us an email. I've given you some contact information to our procurement staff, our hub department. You've got my information. Our contracts office. We are more than happy to answer any questions for you when it comes to IT procurements or to DIR. If you have other questions about security or other departments, we're more than happy to get those headed in the right direction for you. So again, I hope you found this helpful today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're more than happy to work with you, and we appreciate you doing business with DIR. With that, if I don't see any questions in the Q&A box, we thank you for your time today and wish you all a wonderful evening and happy holidays to everybody. Enjoy your holidays. Take care. Thanks for joining us today.